You already have more knowledge than you think. You just haven't learned to decipher the hidden messages yet. Because every individual leaves traces of their being. And the 18 insights of the philosopher Nietzsche will reveal to you how to identify and interpret them. It is a skill that no one transmits to you, but when you master it, it becomes indispensable. However, this content is not a superficial list or a trivial piece of advice. It is an in-depth exploration, structured into 3 insightful sections, each building on the previous one. If you skip a step or leave one out, you miss the depth that makes this knowledge truly transformative. So stay with me, because by the end of all 3 sections, you will not only understand others, you will understand yourself in unexpected ways. But before continuing, like the video, share it with people who could benefit from it, and write in the comments which city you follow our YouTube channel from. This helps us grow and continue sharing valuable content like this. From childhood, you are trained to believe what others say. Words are our currency. But Nietzsche warned us not to be fooled by language, because people do not communicate truthfully. They speak for survival, for ego, for fear. The facade of a person's personality is not their essence. It is their protection. Someone who appears overly friendly may not be friendly at all. He may be terrified of rejection. Those who seem strong may be on the verge of collapsing inside, hoping no one will notice. And the trickiest thing about humans is that they aren't even aware that they're acting this way. Most people are acting out dramas they didn't write. Their smiles, their beliefs, their tone. Everything was shaped by what kept them safe. And that's why most people don't hide from you. They hide from themselves. Nietzsche once said, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." But he didn't mean it as an insult. He meant it as a warning not to confuse the mask with the individual. Here's what no one tells you. People reveal the truth all the time. Not through their words, but through the cracks. The moments when they look away, the way they laugh too long, the way they quickly change the subject when it gets too personal. And Nietzsche's first psychological insight is this. Everyone wears a mask to survive, not because they are fake, but because they are afraid. To exist in society, people create a version of themselves that they hope will be accepted. But masks are not perfect. They slip, and the first sign of truth is tension. Observe what makes someone uncomfortable. That's where the authentic person begins. 2. What someone hates in others reveals what they hide in themselves. This is one of Nietzsche's most insightful observations. Projection. When someone constantly criticizes arrogance, they are often insecure about their own self-worth. When someone never stops pointing out dishonesty in others, they are usually hiding a truth that he didn't address. We hate in others what we fear to admit in ourselves. So when you want to decipher someone, don't just look at what they admire. Look at what they criticize and why. 3. Silence reveals more than words. Nietzsche didn't believe that truth could emerge from dialogue. In fact, he saw language as a tool of the herd, often used to avoid facing reality. When someone hesitates before answering, when they avoid certain topics, when they offer short, prepared answers to profound questions, that silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. A person who avoids vulnerability reveals everything they fear. 4. Excessive virtue is often vanity in disguise. Be wary of those who loudly proclaim their purity, who are always correcting others and constantly preaching. Nietzsche called it the disguised will to power. Sometimes morality becomes a mask of superiority. The stronger the signal of virtue, the more likely it is that something is hidden behind it. True kindness doesn't need applause. 5. No one lies to you first. They lie to themselves. That changes everything. The lies you hear from people. I'm okay. I'm over it. I don't care. Aren't these lies meant to hurt you? They're lies they've repeated so often. Who believe it? Nietzsche didn't see self-deception as evil, but as a defense, a way to continue functioning in a painful world. So when someone's story doesn't add up, don't assume they're trying to deceive you. Realize that they've been doing it for much longer, and that's what makes them readable. Because inconsistencies reveal the truth. 6. When someone feels superior, they are hiding their inferiority. This is pure Nietzsche. He believed that superiority is often an overcompensation. If someone constantly reminds you of their successes, they probably fear that they are not enough. If someone casually puts others down, they probably fear that they are being overlooked. True confidence doesn't compete, it just is. So if someone needs to dominate, control, or prove something, look deeper. Behind the throne, there is often a scared child wearing a crown. Reading people is not judging them. It's understanding their essence. When someone constantly interrupts you, now you know it's not always arrogance. It could be the fear of being forgotten. When someone obsessively posts about happiness, it could be a cry for help. When someone avoids eye contact while saying, "I'm fine," listen to the body, not the words. Don't use these truths to gain power, but to extend compassion. Because the more clearly you see a person, the less likely you are to hate them. And that's Nietzsche's secret. He didn't want you to see through others so you could control them. He wanted you to see beyond them so you could stop being fooled and start connecting. And if you've ever looked at someone and felt like you were only seeing the surface, if you've ever wished you could decipher what's really going on beneath the mask, leave a comment below. Let's talk about those moments when people have shown you the truth without saying a word. And if this video helped you see people differently, subscribe. There's more to come, and you'll want to see more of Nietzsche's truths revealed. It's one thing to notice the mask. It's another thing to see it break. If you've ever paid attention, you've probably seen it happen. A flash of discomfort when someone's beliefs are challenged. The way the tone changes. When the subject gets too close. The nervous laugh that doesn't match the words. These moments aren't mistakes. They're clues. And if you know what to look for, you'll start to realize that it's not that hard. Understanding people. They are just afraid of being seen. In part 1, we explored how people construct a personality to protect themselves. But here, in part 2, we delve into where these personalities begin to break down. Because Nietzsche believed that the self is not a stable thing. It is a performance, a role stitched together to survive the world. And when it is threatened, the truth seeps in. Most actions are driven by fear. Let's start here because it is more universal than you think. 7. Most actions are driven by unconscious fear. Ask yourself this: why does someone over-explain? Why does he dominate the conversation or disappear completely? Why does he say yes when it is clear he means no? Fear. Fear of abandonment, rejection, humiliation, failure. Nietzsche knew that humans rarely act out of pure desire. They act out of a deep fear of loss. Loss of status, loss of love, loss of self-worth. So when you want to read someone, stop focusing on what they say they want. Instead, ask yourself, what are they afraid of losing? That's where the truth lies. Criticism is a mirror. Next time someone is constantly criticizing others, listen carefully. 8. When someone criticizes too much, it's projection. The person who makes fun of emotional people may be terrified of their own feelings. The woman who belittles others because of their appearance may be engaged in a secret war with her own reflection. Nietzsche said that judgment is almost never about the other. It is about the self. So when you hear repeated criticism, don't get distracted from the target. Instead, draw the line at the speaker. What part of them are they trying to deny? Projection isn't just a defense mechanism, it's a confession. If you listen carefully, you can find out exactly where a person's pain lies. Confidence is often guilt in disguise. You've probably met this type of person, the one who seems overly confident, always in control, always composed. But watch them long enough, and you'll see the tension in their jaw, the way they over-prepare, the defensiveness under pressure. 9. Guilt hides behind false confidence. Nietzsche observed this phenomenon in leaders, teachers, preachers, those who act confidently because they are afraid of being seen. When someone is chronically confident, they look for the guilt they are trying to bury. Maybe it is something they regret. Maybe it is a version of themselves. They are trying to prove you wrong. True peace doesn't need to show off. So when someone seems overconfident, don't be intimidated. Be curious. Exaggeration reveals hidden truth. This is subtle but powerful, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. 10. People give themselves away by exaggerating. Someone who always says, "I don't care what people think," probably does care a lot. Someone who claims to be happy all the time probably isn't. Exaggeration is a signal. It's the ego trying to stifle doubt. Nietzsche believed that extremism, in any direction, it was a form of imbalance, not strength. So when someone's statements sound too absolute, don't believe the content. Read the insecurity underneath. Exaggeration is volume. The question is, what are they trying to silence? The desire for control masks the chaos within. Control. We seek it everywhere. In our work, in our relationships, in our routines. But some people are obsessed with it. And that is a sign. 11. Those who seek control often fear inner chaos. Nietzsche saw this clearly. When the inner world is disordered, the outer world must be obsessively managed. If someone controls every detail, if they can't handle change, if they dominate others to feel powerful, it's not because they're strong. It's because there's something inside them that feels out of control. So instead of fearing the controlling person, see them for who they are. Someone terrified of the fact that in the moment in which one lets go, everything will collapse. The more rigid the outer shell, the more fragile the inner self. The display masks the inner emptiness. This is one of Nietzsche's most disturbing insights, and it is more relevant today than ever. 12. The stronger the display, the emptier the core. Consider social media, the endless energy that draws the eye, the perfect poses, the constant updates, the curated identity. Nietzsche didn't see it as strength, he saw it as desperation. When someone constantly shows off, it's because they don't believe they'll be seen or loved without it. So they create noise, color, drama, but the person who truly knows themselves doesn't need to be watched. They are already complete. So when someone's life seems like a show, remember that. It's not a show of power. It's a whisper of need, putting it all together. You're probably starting to notice it now. The shift. You walk into a room and suddenly the patterns speak louder than words. You see someone interrupting you all the time, and you realize they're terrified of being forgotten. You see someone bragging nonstop, and you feel the invisible hurt. You are not reading minds. You are reading the mask, and Nietzsche gave you the torch. It is not just a skill. It is a responsibility, because once you learn to see people clearly, you can no longer unsee them, and you will begin to understand that most. People suffer in silence, behind a printed smile. Reading them is not gaining an advantage. It is offering grace. When you see the child behind the critic, the fear behind the bully, the guilt behind the arrogance, you don't become weaker. You become unshakable. Want more? If this part of the video, it opened your eyes, wait for the final part, because in the third section we remove the final layer. We will explore how the deepest childhood wounds manifest in the adult personality, how their envy, their silence, their need to be remembered reveal their soul. You will learn the 6 final truths that will make you see people with absolute clarity. But most importantly, you will understand yourself. Something in you has changed now. You don't just see people, you read them. Not as evil, not as victims, but as human beings. Trying to survive with masks they didn't even choose. But we're not done yet. Because behind every behavior there is a belief, and behind every belief there is a wound. This final part is about learning to recognize the soul, the deep story that lies beneath the surface. Of every person you meet, Nietzsche didn't just reveal people's behavioral patterns, he clarified where those patterns come from. Let's finish what we started. 13. No one speaks logically. They speak from pain. You might think that people are rational, that they argue based on facts, and make decisions based on reason. But Nietzsche thought differently. He believed that behind every logical argument lies an emotional wound. Some might say, "I don't believe in love. It's just an illusion." But listen carefully. They're not stating a fact. They're protecting a pain. People form opinions. Based on what hurt them, they then justify it with logic. So when you want to understand someone's worldview, don't just ask what they believe. Ask what destroyed them. Ask what scared them. Ask what they never want to experience again. This changes everything. It shifts the focus from why they say this to why they are afraid to repeat it. And suddenly their opinions are no longer threats. They are defenses. Their arguments are not attacks. They are shields. And when you see this, you stop reacting. You start to understand. 14. The way. A person reacts to weakness and reveals his strength. Do you really want to see someone's character? Don't look at how he treats powerful people. Look at how he treats someone who can't react. Nietzsche believed that true strength is not demonstrated through domination. It is revealed through moderation. If someone makes fun of vulnerability, he is afraid of his own. If someone punishes mistakes, he was probably not allowed to make them. If someone always wins but leaves others bleeding, he is still at war with himself. But the person who can see weakness without judging, who can bear sadness without running away, who can forgive what could have been punished, that is a person no longer governed by the past. He does not need to prove anything because he has already won the internal war. So if you want to read someone, give him a moment. Where compassion is an option. What they do will show you who they are, not just who they pretend to be. 15. When someone fears being forgotten, they reach out for attention. Have you ever met someone who always needs to be seen? Every room they walk into, every story they tell, every outfit she wears screams, "Notice me." At first glance, it seems confident, but Nietzsche saw through it. He believed that the desire for attention often stems from a deeper fear, the fear of being invisible, of being erased, of living and dying without leaving a mark. So people create noise not because they like to, but because they can't stand silence. The ignored child becomes the overcompensating adult, and instead of asking for love directly, they demand it indirectly through performance, drama, or chaos. So when you see someone overdoing it, don't be quick to respond. In judging, ask yourself what they fear might happen if they were not enough. Because sometimes attention is not vanity, it is a cry. 16. The person they attack is often the same one they envy. One of Nietzsche's boldest truths, and one of the hardest to admit, is this. People don't always attack because they hate. They often attack because they admire, but they think they can never be like that. Criticism is easier than admiration. So the person who denigrates a successful person, who mocks a confident person, who gossips about a free person, is not just bad. He is suffering. Because to see someone embody a part of you that you have abandoned, it is to remind you of what you have lost. So instead of celebrating the other, we destroy him. But envy is just an unexpressed desire. It is the soul that says, I would like that too, but I don't think I am allowed. If you can see this in others, you become immune to petty hatred. If you can see this in yourself, you become free. 17. People live their childhood, not their beliefs. You have heard, people don't change, but Nietzsche would say, people repeat. They repeat the roles they have been. Forced to interpret the fears they were taught to carry, the dynamics they never escaped. A person who has never been heard becomes someone who never listens. A person who is punished for expressing emotions becomes cold, logical, detached. A person who has had to earn love becomes someone who performs for affection even when it is toxic. They think they are acting on beliefs, but in reality, they are just reenacting the past. So if you want to read someone, don't just look at who they are. Ask yourself who they were supposed to be, because behavior is just a biography. And behind every adult is a child still waiting to feel safe. 18. Their patterns are a confession if you know how to listen. This is the ultimate truth, and it changes everything. People don't always know how to express what hurts, but they will show you again and again through patterns. A person who disappears when things get tough. A person who works too hard to avoid stagnation. A person who flirts with everyone but connects with no one. These aren't casual behaviors. They're confessions. They say, this is how I protect myself. They say, this is where I've been hurt. They say, this is what I am afraid to repeat. Nietzsche believed that if you learn to listen deeply, not to words, but to patterns, you can hear the truth before it is spoken. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. You stop personalizing. You stop judging. You begin to understand. You become a mirror, not a weapon. You become someone who still sees and chooses grace. And that, more than any tactic or trick, is what makes you powerful. You are not just reading people. You are remembering yourself. Now take a moment and reflect. Every truth we have covered. It wasn't just about others. It was about you, your patterns, your fears, your childhood scripts. Because the more clearly you see others, the more clearly you see yourself. This is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of a new way of seeing. Nietzsche didn't just want for us to watch. He wanted us to wake up, for us to know that everything we judge in others is something we carry within us, that everything we admire is something we want to embody. So if you felt seen by this video, if you recognized patterns in people or in yourself, don't keep it to yourself. Comment below which of these 18 truths struck you the most. Let's build something honest together in a world full of masks. And if this has touched you, sign up. This is just the beginning of learning to see what is hidden and become who you really are.